This morning about 6:15, we got up and my husband was walking the dogs, and he called me on his cell phone and he said, there's a car on top of the trestle. And it was kind of, something you don't expect to see, so I came outside and I saw the Ford Explorer that was on top of the trestle. It almost made it the whole way across it, but not quite. It was kind of hanging over the side a little bit. The wheels were hanging out over the edge. I called the Pennsylvania State Police and I told them where I lived and who I was and about we have a trestle in our backyard in Chicora. And he said, yes, he said, there's a car on top of the trestle. They had already aware of it. He said somebody had been drinking and took a wrong turn onto the tracks and kept driving and didn't make it quite as far as she hoped to. He said they weren't sure how they were going to get it off the tracks, and he said just wait till it gets bright outside and go out inside and take some pictures of it. Probably around noon or so, the wrecker showed up and also a crane where they were going to try to lift it up a little bit on the tracks and pull it so they could actually drive it off the tracks.
We were contacted early this morning by state police, and the reason they contacted us because of the predicament the vehicle was in. And if they figured it would take specialty equipment, that's why they asked us to come in on it. And when we got here, looked it over at daylight, it was quite an ordeal. Never seen one go out that far on a railroad trestle before. We originally thought that we could do different things with the crane and stuff, but as we bought Clarkson, we found out we couldn't reach it with a crane, and the roads were too soft to bring a crane in on. So what we got together is we designed an idea of tilting the vehicle on its side to get it back up over the tracks. It was leaning partially over the tracks, ready to fall. It was roughly 120 feet to the bottom. So what we did was we rigged it up so we could transfer the weight back over and put another truck out on the end of the tracks and slowly winched it down the tracks to where we could get a hold of it to get it off the tracks.
I was sitting at home watching the Pitt basketball game, and my wife is at the beauty shop and said, "You got to see this. The car is on the railroad trestle. A lady drove it from downtown Chicora up onto the railroad trestle, and she got about halfway over, and so I came up the hill. I couldn't believe it. I seen it up there and ran up the railroad tracks and took a look at it. I couldn't believe it was on its two wheels were over the side of the trestle, and it was just amazing that she drove it that far in the middle of the night.
The biggest thing that was so unusual and hard for this type of an accident is where it was at. I mean, there was no way to physically get to it, to lift it or anything else. I mean, a typical wrecker would back in a short distance and lift a car to winch it out of a ditch or an embankment or something. We actually had to have two extensions of cable just to reach it. So that's what we had to do is put a second truck, one to topple the weight back to one side so we could get it back on the tracks to get it stationary so it wouldn't roll off down over the hill.